I would now like to introduce Dr. Chris Peterson, the director of the MSU Product Center, to introduce our keynote speakers.
Well, good morning, everyone. As my colleague said, I'm Chris Peterson, and I'm the director of the Product Center. It's really wonderful to celebrate entrepreneurship in food. And that's a lot of what our day is about. Many of you either are entrepreneurs or you're aspiring to be entrepreneurs in our area. And we have two absolutely exciting guests with us today. And we're going to take a little less formal approach to the keynote. I'm going to be the moderator. I feel a little bit like Oprah sitting here. And but the two guests that I have are, of course, principals in Garden Fresh, which is one of Michigan's great success stories. But rather than me give a lot of background, I'm just simply going to say that right beside me is Jack Aronson, who's the founder of Garden Fresh, and then next is John Latella, who is co-CEO of Garden Fresh. And I'm going to turn to each of them and just say, so where did you guys come from? What's the background you bring to what you do?
Go ahead, John. You want to start?
Okay, I'll go first. No food experience whatsoever. I actually went to law school down the street here at, not Cooley, at Michigan State. So started out as an attorney. My father happened to be Jack and his wife Annette's first partner in the business. Unfortunately, my father became ill, so I was sucked out of the practice of law. Jack begged me to come on. He can tell you more about that. And I've been there now 8 years full-time, 17 years in total in terms of being involved in the business, but 8 years full-time.
And Jack?
Well, it's real funny because we can everybody hear me? Good morning, by the way. I was in pre-med at Arkansas State University, but I was born and raised here in the Detroit area, and had a restaurant on Woodward Avenue just north of the fairgrounds. And I had a trip to Albuquerque one time and had some great fresh salsa. And I couldn't get any good fresh salsa locally, so I started making out of my restaurant on Woodward Avenue. And Jim Hiller from Hiller Shopping Center Markets in the Detroit area came in and asked me if I'd make the salsa for his grocery stores. And I started doing that around 17 years ago. I got a Department of Agriculture license and started working on a card table with a Sunbeam blender.
So you started like most food entrepreneurs, very small. In those, at that early time, Jack, did you ever imagine that you were going to find your fame and fortune eventually in that product?
No, not in the very beginning. You know, we're just trying to pay the electric bill at the restaurant. You know, they kid me. They asked, I've had some entrepreneurs come ask me what my first filler was, and I said, my wife's right hand, because we filled everything by hand with another cup. And would I think a lot of people that are starting out will know what I'm talking about. You know, put the shrink band on, have a little heat gun, and put the labels on by hand. So, no, we never thought it would get to where it's at now. Thought we'd be just a little local.
Well, what was the moment of transition? Where did the big opportunity arise?
Well, the first one was LaPerry, one of the sponsors here. I had started to sell out of a little flower truck. I bought a little flower truck from Nature Nooks Florist, and I remember back then I bought this refrigerated truck for $2,200, which was a lot of money for us, and I mentioned to my wife what a terrific deal I had. Then about 6 months later, we had about $20,000 into this truck because it broke down every week. And I went and knocked on some doors, and I got our product in about 65, 70 retailers. And had a meeting with LaPerry, and they ended up taking our product in. So I think that was the first big step we had.
Okay, and as you think then about other big hurdles that you had to face along the growth path, what were some of those critical hurdles?
Well, John can share some of this too, but growth itself. We doubled every year, and it became extremely difficult to keep up with the infrastructure. We had explosive growth. The numbers, John, in 2004, maybe?
We averaged about 54% growth for approximately 5 years, which is remarkable. And you're talking, really to this day still, we're every single day we're dealing with infrastructure issues, whether or not we have the right team in place, if we're doing things the right place. There's probably many of you out there sitting there questioning yourselves, going, man, I hope I'm doing this right. Believe me, we still ask the same questions today, 17 years later, whether or not we're doing it right. So, in terms of there being there's been many hurdles, but it's a long race, and I think there's something new, and I think when you're dealing with entrepreneurs, you're going to come across something new and challenging, probably almost every day.
Yeah, the growth in general was the infrastructure, adding on and trying to keep up. I remember one year I think we went from, I don't know the exact numbers, 23 million to the next year we were doing probably 37
to 42.
It was just huge growth trying to keep up with the machinery and the infrastructure. And I remember being in Palm Springs, I had won the Entrepreneur of the Year, Great Lakes region, and my wife had always said, we're growing too fast, turn down business. And if you're an entrepreneur, it's hard to turn down business. But my wife, she worked along with us on the lines, and she always said, hey, we're working people too much. They're working too many hours, they're working too much overtime. And I go, well, they get time and a half. I think they like it, But that was the argument we had, but it was real funny when I'm sitting at this entrepreneurial conference, and we listened to Jim Collins, who wrote the book, Built to Last and Good to Great.
Yep, absolutely. Yeah.
And we're sitting at the table, and somebody asked them, what's the biggest problem in businesses? And they go, Jim goes into this growing too fast. And my wife looked over and said, I told you so.
Yep.
So I think that's it, the growth, growth and, learning.
Yeah.
You're going to learn. You're going to get better through learning. And we've been able to open up a little nonprofit in Ferndale called The Seed. It's an incubator for startups, and I'm sure we have a couple of people here that are working out of The Seed in the show today. So we're real proud of those people. But
when you think about growth strategy, coming back to that, and obviously you started with a very local product, then I assume as you worked with Lipari, that helped get the next round of growth
Right.
going. As you think about what's going to happen, where are you looking for growth now?
Well, we still take care of everything here. What we try to do is always make products better. I've brought in fire roasters. We're fire roasting, doing some salsas that are very popular in the southwest part of the country. And we're fire roasting tomatillos now. We're always trying to raise the bar. I don't want to fall asleep at the wheel. The salsa, I think, in the country is better since we've started. It was fresh refrigerated salsa was not a very good category 16 years ago. I remember Bob Summers, when I went to my first Meyer meeting he was the vice president of produce, he said, I really like your product, but I've had 30 years of horrible failures in the fresh salsa category. And we built that up within a year, tenfold. So I'm always trying to come up with better products. We listen to our customers, and the new innovative fire roasting things we're doing, adding them with fresh components is really getting us to the next level. But we're shipping now to Japan, France, Spain. You know, we have the HPP, the high pressure processing, that allows us to have refrigerated foods last 90 days without pasteurization. It's actually cold water pasteurization, but it doesn't degrade the food. So we're sending hummus to France that's lasting longer once it gets there than people that are making it actually are making it there.
So technology is an important part of creating the attributes you want in that product, isn't it?
Yes, we were all natural. We were told we would never grow outside, you know, our county with an all-natural product. And back then it had a 3-week shelf life. We're getting 60 days without HPP. But with HPP, we put a 100-day shelf life on it, but it has been, most of the products will last a year.
Wow. For both of you, as you look back on the 17 years, if you could go back and change one thing, what would it be?
Oh boy.
That's a good question.
You know, I probably wouldn't change anything. I think we're very fortunate to be where we're at. I think every experience we've had, whether good or bad, has kind of molded us to be in the position that we're in. I can't, just off the top of my head, to think of one specific thing. I would make retailers have contracts.
Okay.
How's that?
That's a good one, yes.
Now, he doesn't have the power to do that, by the way.
Yeah, no, yes, we understand. Jack, is there any one thing?
No, I don't think so. You know, I went to a closing one time. We almost sold the company a few years ago to a multi-billion-dollar, one of the largest food companies in the country. Actually went to the closing in New York where we changed our mind at the last hour.
Wow.
And, you know, it dawned on us at the last minute that, you know, all the people that relied on us, and they were going to move the company to Virginia and things like that. So, you know, it's something I wasn't real proud of afterward, even going to that meeting, but it was a learning experience, and that's probably the only thing I'd change.
Again, for each of you to think about, we have many entrepreneurs sitting here in the audience this morning. If there were 3 pieces of advice you could give these folks sitting here, what would they be?
Well, I'll give 3, then why don't you give your 3, John, and maybe we'll be the same ones. I don't know.
They might be different.
Yeah, they might be. To me, as an entrepreneur, you know, create a product that people want. Try to create the best product in your category, and give good service. I think that's what's built our company. Is you know, we make food to order. It's very difficult. We don't make our products ahead of time. We're a made-to-order company. We do 250,000 pounds every day of fresh, all-natural products, and we deliver on time. And I think that's the biggest thing: is give a service and live up to your brand promise.
Okay, very good. John?
Mine will be totally on the opposite end of the spectrum. Obviously, entrepreneurs, the very first place you're going to be looking, you're going to need people to help you work, get the product out, get the product made. So I would be leery of building that network too big with family and friends, because down the road, you know, you want them to be there for you, obviously, and be part of the experience. But I think one of the things as we've gone on, it does prove there are some great challenges that come with that. I think the other thing you have to do is definitely surround yourself with people that you trust wholeheartedly. And what I mean by that is get a good accountant. We can give you names. Get a good attorney. Just build a network of people. It might actually even be with sitting on an affinity group or another group with maybe some CEOs from other small companies, just so you can get opinions and throw ideas off of other people that are dealing with, quite frankly, are dealing with the same issues that you're probably having on a daily basis. I think that's the biggest thing, because that's where a lot of your biggest challenges are going to come from, is what do I do in this type of circumstance? Most of you, when you're making your product, I mean, that's your life love, so you know what you're doing there. However, most of us don't know what we're doing when it involves regulations, and it involves the state, and it involves taxes, and it involves accounting principles and the proper way to do things and all those types of things. And I think a lot of times when we start a venture or we get into something, that kind of gets put to the wayside because we're so busy doing those other things. But really, setting yourself up and protecting yourself is probably one of the most important things you can do as well.
Okay, very good. What's the future? What are your goals moving forward now?
Right now, we've got our third HPP machine coming. It's the largest one in the world. It's new 525. And this next year, we are even doing our top tummus is going to be all natural. Everything in the company right now, we're about, I would say about 80% all natural. All of our salsas are all natural. But within the next year, we're changing the name of the company to Garden Fresh Naturals. We've already locked that up. Some of our products have already have that name on the products. And everything that our company makes is going to be all natural. And I think that's the biggest step for us this next year. And more HPP products, basically, trying to be more efficient.
Okay, very good. John, anything you?
From my perspective, it's going to be, one of the things, and Jack has alluded to, we both talked about it briefly, was the infrastructure. We've gotten to what you could call almost an inflection point in terms of how fast we grew and where we're at. And literally, for the size company we are, we're in terms of top-heavy management, C-level, we're very thin. I mean, effectively, it's Jack, myself, another partner of ours, Dave Zilko, Jack's wife Annette, and that's it. So, in a lot of respects, I'm also, the CFO, the HR manager a lot of times, chief referee, because of those family members I warned you about. So I think one of the things we're really going to try to focus on in 2015 is building the rest of our team up, maybe bring on a real strong CFO to help grow the business from that respect, maybe a real strong COO, add a little bit more firepower to the C-level to move us, to really start moving the needle for us on again.
In the last year, we hired a team out of Atlanta called Lean Enterprise Partners, and they have worked with Giardelli Chocolates and Mercedes-Benz, JB Hunt, and they taught us. We had our team members become a team for a certain area in the plant, and they get to solve problems. And most of the time, it's not their environment they're used to working. But what we're doing is we're getting improvements from the team, right from the floor, the people that do the work. And it's been it's been excellent for our company, where we're going, because we're trying to, I would say the biggest thing this year is more for our culture. I think we have a big culture. My wife used to make carrot cakes for every employee until we got up to 400, and then she was in a carrot cake business basically, because she was always making carrot cakes, but she still gives them birthday cards, hand signed, right to them. But as we move forward, your most valuable asset is the people you get to work with, and we have a lunch and learn where my wife and I will have lunch, and John, with 20 team members, no managers. And then we rotate that. We try to do that every week so we can at least have lunch with everybody every 6 months. And it's we provide lunch, we take an extra, about an hour and a half, And people can say, there's no managers there, so there's no pressure there, but they can tell us what they like, what they don't like, and how to make it better. But we're getting the most improvements from in our company are coming from the floor.
Very good. Well, I suspect there are some folks out here who would like to ask you some questions. And so what I would like to do is turn to the audience, and we would be happy to have you ask some questions of both Jack and John, who would right down front here.
Jack, have you looked into, John, have you looked into patenting the product?
The question is, has Garden Fresh looked into patenting of the product?
We can't patent the recipe. We have trademarked all of our flavors and profiles. The process that we have is a trade secret. So it's not a formal process, but patenting goes more towards the actual technique of doing it. So I guess the answer is no, but we have secured all of our rights through every other avenue. And believe me, there is a lot of garden fresh products that pop up on the market on a daily basis, especially in this segment that we're in.
Right down here. Yep.
Hello. I'm a new company and I'm looking for a place where I can get my product packaged. It's all natural. It's a condiment. I do condiments, those sort of thing. I have my labeling from Professor Kathy Jim from Wayne State University, and Wholesale Foods accepted my concept, but I can't utilize the distributors because I don't have the capital to get there yet. How or what avenue do I utilize to get to that level?
Well, and just to share the question with everyone else, pretty much a new business, trying to figure out how to find a co-packer and also wrestle with the ultimate issues of the capital to be able to process the product the way she would like.
Well, I'm going to get you a card from Michelle Kobernick at our table right here. It's the director of the Seed, that's in Ferndale. We have equipment there that people can use. That's a nonprofit. And we have some mentoring programs with Dave Zilko, who does all of our sales and marketing, Mike Griffin that does creative. And you can talk to Michelle or I for food. Michelle used to own a business called Gourmet Every Day. It was a healthy meal concept, and so she firsthand knows some of the struggles, and we've lived them, trust me. I mean, I was lucky enough to have a restaurant, so I had the building. You know, there was no equipment, of course. You know, I think we had a Sunbeam blender and a hairdryer. And we grew from there. But if you want to talk to Michelle, we'll get you some information for that. You're welcome.
Yes, right down here.
John, this is for you. Said to be conscious of family and friends. So correct me if I'm wrong, but what's it like to work with your grandfather?
The question is, what was it like to work for Granddad, his grandfather?
Oh, he's not my grandfather.
No,
He's a,
oh, yes, it's for John, I'm sorry.
right.
I worked with my father, though. I did get an opportunity to, what was it? I think Dad, before he probably maybe a little bit less than a year.
Yeah, John, by the way, when we dragged John out, you know, he said he was an attorney, but he was working in the Macomb County Prosecutor's Office in the senior crimes unit. And the reason they used him in that role was because at the senior citizen homes, all the ladies would show up when John would come and talk. So he's very, very popular with the 70, 80, 90-year-olds. Very.
This is true. We have great senses of humor at Garden Fresh. I know Warren. I paid him to ask that question.
I okay? And during some of the other challenging times, but it's amazing.
I would say you could add that to the 3 top things. I think we do have one of the other things. You got to have fun with what you're doing. I think that's very important. And if you're not, then you might have to rethink what you're doing. But I think we do have a lot of fun, but we get a lot of stuff done as well.
I have 5 grown children there. John has his brother and his sister there, and we have 15, 20 nieces and nephews. So, you know what? It may be the worst of it. John deals with the family, both of them, his and ours. We consider them one. He said it's worse than working in the prosecutor's office.
Oh.
But you know what? It can be the worst of things, but it's also the best of things.
We have time for some more questions back here.
My husband works in government business for 2 years, and we're now in the marketplace. But do you advertise? Is that some for advertising, or how do you promote yourself without putting out on yourself?
You want me to?
So the question is for everyone, you have been selling in Myers for 3 years?
No, we've been in business 3 years, and we've got, now we're in over 300 stores. How do we keep it on the shelf? What do we do?
Okay, now that you've been in business 3 years, you're on the shelf in 300 stores, what role should advertising play? How should you get the word out even further for your business? Good question.
Well, for us, it's always been, we've done a lot of demos. In the very beginning, we just did demos and demos and demos and demos, and then promotions, because you can't be in every store all the time. We found out when we got our product in somebody's mouth, they bought it again. Because I mean, if you have a lousy product, you're going to do a demo. You may do good that day. You're not going to do good, after that. But promotions, probably what, about 14%?
Yep.
Of our gross is spent back on promotions, doing maybe that 2 for $5, or the buy one, get one, so people will get that, take it home and enjoy it, and hopefully buy it again. We haven't spent any money on any kind of advertising, and that's worked for us.
Yeah, I agree. We have never done any traditional advertising in terms of, print media, television. Jack hit it right on the head. It's all getting the product in people's mouths. We do a lot of community. I think, not just in your product, but the more you can get yourself out there in terms of giving back to the community, there is obviously a collateral benefit that goes along with that. One, you're doing something good, but yes, I mean, it does ultimately affect your business as well.
Right here.
Hi, I have a brand new business that was started, an entrepreneur business. It's a gourmet mushroom, indoor grown gourmet mushrooms. I've owned it for about 6 days. So brand new owner, but I worked for many months for free to learn how to do it. But coming into it, the reason the guys sold it was because of all the obstacles. There's so many variables in mushrooms specifically. And winter, and all these different variables, including commercial kitchens, and all these different ways I need to spend money. I don't have a lot of money, so what's my best approach to synchronize how I, and there's debt too. How do I synchronize the best way to move forward? I'm in a lot of restaurants, food hubs, farmers markets, CSAs. I have a good income coming in. How do I use it to best grow the business?
So, brand new entrepreneur, 6 days.
6 days.
She's owned the business, but it is an existing business, and so there is cash flow coming in. There are customers out there, but the question is, how does she begin to prioritize the things that she needs to do to move this business ahead?
This is a gourmet mushroom?
Mm-hmm.
Fresh mushrooms?
Oh yeah, fresh, and then I want to move into dried and cut.
That's a good way to take care of your shrink too, is the,
Exactly.
yeah, do that. Well, I think you're doing the right thing. I mean, I think, the farmers markets and the demos. I think that's, and you're doing some restaurant business, you said also?
2 food hubs, 15 restaurants, 4 regular menu items, and then CSAs and poultry farms.
No, I think you're doing great. I think you're doing the right things. I think you just need to keep,
Plugging away.
yeah, keep going, keep doing that.
If I'd add anything, what I would say is, out of those many things, different revenue streams, see which ones give you the best margins, maybe focus a little bit more on those until you get those down. I think that's one of the other problems that a lot of times, and we've actually had this problem on, sometimes you always want to be innovative and you want to do new things and you want to see what you can do, but sometimes you start spending time on something that maybe is 2% of your total business, and you find yourself spending so much time on it, and then literally we step back and go, you want to know something? That's 2% of our business. We really need to focus on what's 50% of what our business is and where that revenue is coming from. So,
Yeah, this could definitely be a long conversation, so I could, have like 20 more questions after that, so thank you.
Okay.
you had a couple over
One
there.
more, yes. Over here?
In the green back there.
There's somebody in the green.
Ah, right back there, yes.
Actually, 2 questions. Your first 5 years of business, is obviously you guys are a lot smaller than what was your trajectory of growth? And now I forgot my next question.
Well, how about I rephrase the first one and maybe the second one will come to you. As they look back, particularly on the first 5 years, what was the real trajectory of growth during that critical opening period of the business?
There was nothing formal. We never, even to this day, and we're going to be moving to a more formalized model, and I'm not actually even ashamed to say it, but we don't even prepare budgets in terms of from department to department and what we're looking to do. We it's our friends back there. It kind of just happened. I think is the in terms of actually thinking about where we're going to be and where we were at, and
Yeah. I mean, I go to a lot of entrepreneurial classes at Grand Valley. We've done Michigan State. I've done one in Florida for Dr. Desert from local university, and Wayne State here. I know they're dying for me to tell these kids what a great business plan I had, and unfortunately, I really didn't have one. I knew that I burned out 4 blenders in the first couple of weeks on artichokes. So my first thing I did was buy a better blender. But, we learned as we went, and that's what we still learn. We try to be really innovative. We have the longest lasting all-natural salsa, but it took us a long time to get there. And, one time we moved into a new facility. We went from about 1/4 of this stage to about 3,500 square feet, where we thought was just absolutely mammoth. And we hooked up our mixer. Now we had a bigger mixer. We had a VCM, like the Hobart mixers you've seen with the blades in them. And the electricians hooked it up backwards, so the sharp end of the blade was not hitting the vegetables. The blunt end was. So our product got a lot of yeast from the bruising, when you drop an onion. We had $10,000 worth of product come back because it yeasted and blew up, it spoiled prematurely. And that was a lot of money for us back in those days. That was huge, and a huge mistake, and it taught us how important it is to have sharp objects cut in our vegetables. So we picked up these little tips along the way, and I think that some of the processes we've learned have really, we've had all natural fresh sauce. We're talking about cilantro, green peppers, onions, and things that normally don't last very long. And of course we have a great pH, and we've had it last 90 to 100 days even without the HPP process sometimes when conditions are right. In refrigeration. And remember, when you do refrigeration tests, shelf life studies, in supermarkets, a lot of the refrigeration has a defrost cycle, so it goes from 38, 40 degrees up to 54 degrees for a minute or two every hour. And some products don't survive that over a couple week time. So it's important that you try to do proper shelf life studies. We actually have open coffin coolers and things like that when we can do shelf life studies and to get true shelf life studies. And especially like pH, for instance. If you make a salsa and you test your pH for that salsa, let's say you're making a real, something with a lot of non-acidic products, like black bean and corn, for instance. And you stick it in that tomato juice, you know, in the black bean and corn, and you get a reading of about 3.8. Really, to get a proper reading, you have to put that in a blender and blend it completely up, where it's all one product. Then you take the pH and you'll be surprised, because now your pH has went up to a whole nother level, and that's going to help you with your shelf life studies. So little things you learn along the way. Hopefully we can share some of that. If you want to talk to Michelle later and schedule an appointment, she may be able to help you out before you go through some of the issues we did.
Well, as the moderator, I'm going to take the privilege of the last question to the two of you. You mentioned Jim Collins and Good to Great. And Collins in Good to Great says all great companies have some form of what he called the Hedgehog Concept. What you're best in the world at, what you're passionate about, and what drives your economic engine. You think about those three things. What are those things for Garden Fresh?
What drives me? I mean, to me, I think I have sort of a chef's mentality. You know, when you feed somebody, you always want to make sure that they have had a good meal and they leave your place. And I think that's been, we feel that our products, we were told by a buyer one time that we wanted to show him a new product, and he said, just, I'll give you an item number. And, because I know it's going to be great if it comes from your company. And I think we always strive to be the best on the market. I don't want to, we're not a commodity, and I don't want to ever be known as a commodity. I want people to, you know, to trust our brand, and that's the most important thing. You want to answer one of the two of the questions? I can't remember the other two. What'd you just say?
No, you actually at best in the world and passion. Well, maybe I should ask John, what drives the economic engine?
I think ultimately the work ethic. You know, you heard Jack say, Annette to this day, now Jack's wife, if she does come in, she goes straight to the floor, straight out to the employees, works the lines herself. You know, what she's asking everybody, or what we're asking everybody else to do, she's doing it herself. And by all means, she could be anywhere she wants to be at this time. So I think the work ethic, the essentially the culture that we've created, the fact that, you know, I think we're all, if you were to spend any given amount of time with us, you'd realize we're all pretty competitive people, just in, you know, in our daily lives and what our interests are, even aside from that. So I think that's really what drives us. And then I think from the business standpoint, you know, we went through this, Jack had mentioned when, you know, there was a large global company that was looking to purchase us, and I think, you know, our ability to compete at the level that we are with those big global companies, and the fact that we know that we make them nervous because we can take, you know, at one point in time they had asked who our R&D department was, and they were expecting a big long drawn out answer with, you know, 15 people and process, and
Well, how long will it take to get a product to market?
it takes them a year and a half. We can get a product to market if we have, the biggest problem for us is how fast can we get a label, and if we have packaging in-house. And I can put a product out within 2 weeks. Takes them a year and a half. And we pointed to Jack, I said, there's our R&D department, he's sitting right there. And they literally were, you're being serious? Yeah, we're being serious, there he is. So I don't think, I think you need to embrace those types of things, because when you get, you know, the big bureaucratic machines that are out there that you're competing with for that shelf space, they don't have the ability to do that, and they've ruined their ability to do that. And I think that's where everybody in this room, I think that's where you have the advantage that they don't have, is, you know, make a great, high quality, safe, keep that in mind, safe food product. And I think every single one, I think everybody's got an opportunity to do something.
Yep, no, he's right. And I just want to add one thing before I go. If you ever have to pick, because we have such a great team, there's really no jealousy, which is so important, because I've seen other companies, you know, the Toledo, Tony Pacos, I don't want to talk about anybody, but what happened to that family? And I'm just using an example. Hopefully it'll work out. But if you ever have to pick between character and talent, always pick character.
Wow, what a great comment to end on. Garden Fresh, I think one of the great Michigan success stories in the area of specialty foods, and it was just such a wonderful experience, John and Jack, to have you with us.
Thank you very
Give
much.
them a round of applause.
Thank you.
And they will be around for a little longer this morning. And a very quick end to the session. I think Diane Novak is going to give you instructions about how to get to the breakout sessions now.
Well, good morning, everyone.